Hey YouTube, how's it going? As always, I hope you're having a great week. This video is called What Faith Looks Like. Now, we're going to read in Hebrews 11, and I encourage you to go back and read the whole thing. I was very tempted just to read the whole thing for this video because it gives the definition of faith and great examples of it and people of faith in the Bible, right? So it's a great message, and I encourage you to go back and read it. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read parts of it, and I'm going to correlate that to why faith is important. If you look up the definition of faith in the dictionary, it says this: complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't put complete trust in something that's not been tested or true or proven, right? I don't know anybody that does that. It's kind of like this, right? If you came up to a ravine and there was a small bridge going across it, would you go across that bridge? Probably not. You'd be very leery of it because you don't have no trust or confidence in it, right? But if you've crossed it many times or you've seen people cross it, maybe you saw an elephant going across it, you could have complete trust and confidence that would hold your weight, right? And faith in God is the same way. It's not blind. It's not like, hey, there's no reason for having this faith. It's been tested. It's been true, right? You know, when God calls you to him, when you put your, you see who he is, right? It's why you have complete trust and confidence in him. It's why you put your faith in him. You see, all through your life, you've probably been trying to fill this hole. Find out what that thing that's missing in your life is and fill it, right? And take care of it. And that's what you've been striving for. And you've realized pretty quickly that nothing's been able to fill that, right? You've tried and you've tried, but it's not worked out. Maybe you tried multiple times with the same thing, but it didn't work out. But see, when you came to God, or when you come to God, you realize he's the thing that you've been missing. He's the thing that fits. It's like when you're having that square block, you got to put it in the right hole. When you try to put it in the round hole, it doesn't really fit. You know pretty quickly. But the minute you put it in the square hole, you realize that's the thing that it's supposed to go. That's where it was meant. That's the right thing. You have complete confidence in it really quick. Okay? The first verse of Hebrews 11 gives us the definition of faith. It says this: now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I kind of like the way the NIV version puts it. It says this. It says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. In other words, faith is complete trust in what our hope is in, even though we can't see it. It goes on further in verse 2 and talks about we have faith that God created the heavens and the earth and created everything, right? And why is that? We weren't there. We didn't see him do it, right? We don't have that kind of proof. But when we look at creation, we see a design. We see a purpose. And because of that design and purpose, we know that God created it. We see God in it, right? And so that's why we have complete assurance. That's why we have faith that God did them things, that God created them, okay? The first person we're going to look at had faith, and it cost him, right? It's Moses, and starting in verse 24, it says this. Hebrews 11:24, it says this: by faith Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasure of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than treasures in Egypt, for he looked to the reward. You see, Moses grew up an adopted son of Pharaoh's daughter, and the Pharaohs were considered pretty much gods. So he's part of that family, right? He could have anything he wanted. There was nothing that was off limits to him, right? But it led to a lot of sin probably. And instead of doing that, he said, no, I'm going to do what God wants me to do. I'm going to put my faith in God and follow him. And he chose to be with his people and suffer with his people. See, it cost him. His faith cost him, and it wasn't free, right, what he did. It cost him a lot. He could have had anything he wanted. Instead of being in charge of a bunch of slaves, He could have been in charge of an empire, but he'd rather do what God wanted instead. And why is that? It says because he considered reproach of Christ, what he lost for Christ, as greater riches than all the riches of Egypt. Because he was looking to the reward. He was looking to his hope. Eternity with God was much more valuable to him than everything he could have had in this life. Right? So how is that to you, right? Do you go to work and you got to lie to somebody to get, their contracts or whatever it might be? Their work? Their business? And you think, well, I just got to do that because if not, somebody else will do that. But God's telling you, no, tell the truth. Just be honest. Where's your faith at, right? Who's your faith in? Jesus kind of asked this question in Luke 6. He says this. He says, but why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do the things which I say? Whoever comes to me and hears my sayings and does them, I will show you whom he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when the floods arose, the stream beat vehemently against the house and could not shake it, for it was founded on the rock. But he who heard and did nothing is like a man who built a house on the earth without a foundation, against which the stream beat vehemently, and immediately it fell. The ruin of the house was great. So it's asking, what are you building your life on? Where are you putting your entire faith and trust in your entire life in? What's your complete confidence in, your complete trust in? You see, many people, they go out and they build really nice houses. Their lives look great. But it's not built on God. It's not built on the rock. It has no foundation. And there's other people that build houses, or God builds the house, I should say, because their foundation is on God. Their entire life, the only thing that matters to them is their relationship with God. I'm not saying the other things aren't important at all. I'm just saying the most important thing is God. And that's faith in God right there. You know? You don't want your house to crumble and fall. Because many times in life, when we've built and we have no foundation, things happen. And we're left with nothing. We're left with no hope. Right? But see, even if we were left with nothing, if our house is built on the rock, on God, on Jesus Christ and what he did for us, then we'll still be rich no matter how the world sees us. So why is this important? It says in Ephesians 2:8, it says, for by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourself, it is a gift of God. You see, the people that build these massive, beautiful houses without a foundation, they look good, right? But they don't have faith in God. Their house ain't built on the rock. All their good stuff, it doesn't save them. It says, for by grace you have been saved. It's what God did, what Jesus Christ did on the cross. Everything we do doesn't pay a penny for it. It says through faith, though, we have to choose. We have to choose to have our foundation to be founded in God. Right? Two examples. I'll give you two examples before we're done here. Okay? And the first example is back in Hebrews 11:32. It just mentions his name. It mentions Samson. Now, you probably know a little bit about Samson, a very strong, powerful man, right? Pulled out a jawbone and donkey, killed 1,000 Philistines. You know, was tied up to the gates of the city, ripped him out of the ground and walked away with them. Powerful, strong man, right? And he's listed in Hebrews as a man of faith. But see, you look at his life and you kind of wonder, man, Because the other thing you know about Samson was how great he fell, right? He saw this sin. And, God says it's like a man that built his house on the foundation, who dug deep and made a foundation, built his house on the rock. Samson kind of said, well, I need an addition. But he didn't hire a contractor. He just did it himself and had no clue how to do it. And see, the storms came and that part of the house just fell away, right? It was destroyed. And maybe, the real looked at him with nothing. His eyes were plucked out. He was captured by the Philistines. They mocked him, right? But he was founded upon the rock. And that's what mattered. His works didn't save him. Jesus Christ and what he did. What he was founded upon. What he cared about. He would still had the most important thing. But he had to lose everything to realize it. He had to lose everything to remember what was most important. And when he did that, his greatest victory was right ahead of him. See, they mocked him, but they stood in between the pillars. And his faith in God became his greatest victory because he knocked down the building that they were all in. Another example I would talk about is a little bit different. It's Judas, right? He walked with Jesus. He looked great. In fact, if you look at the other disciples, they considered him like the most trustworthy of all, probably the most holy of all the disciples, right? The most righteous, right? The one that would never do what he did. He was the one that kept the money. And in them days, you had to trust who kept the money. You had to have complete confidence in them. See, they had complete confidence in Judas, but Judas didn't have complete confidence in God. He didn't have his faith in Jesus Christ. He looked really good, but his faith was in him. Right? See, it matters. You still have to choose. And I'll be honest, if you put your faith in God, you'll follow his will and that's what I'm talking about. You're putting your entire life in his hands. It means you want to do his will. Doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we do it every minute, every day. But we always come back to him. He's the one we're founded on. Who are you founded on? Who's your faith in? Where's your trust? Where's your complete confidence? If you lost everything, if your child died, your husband died, your business went to ruins, your house burned down, if you were like Job and it happened multiple times, would you still be founded in Jesus Christ? Because see, the thing is, if you aren't, you probably never were. And I can't answer that for you. You can look perfect and great just like Judas did. It's between you and God. So I beg you, search your heart and see who you founded on. See what matters most in your life. If you're always going and saying, it's okay. It's okay if I do this stuff. It's no big deal. You might ask yourself why it's no big deal to you. Because I think it should be. If your faith is in God, if your complete confidence is in him, it should be hard when you're going against what God says. You see, with Samson, he tried to hide it. He didn't really want to tell people about it. He didn't really want people that were founded in God to know about it, right? Because he knew he was wrong. He was going like swimming upstream until he got found out. But luckily for him, like I said, he was founded in God. So much so that God put him in this book and said he was a great man of faith. So I ask you again, Who's your faith in? Because it matters. It matters. If your hope is in Jesus Christ and what he did for you on the cross, in saving you and making a way back to a relationship with God, a relationship for all eternity with him, the hope for eternity, that's what I hope your faith is in. But if it's in yourself, I pray for you. But I don't know where your hope's going to be one day. I hope your hope is in God. I hope your faith is in God. I hope your eternity is vested in him. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.